Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. Website thisweekinamerica.us. Dr. William Pawluk is a board-certified family physician. He specialized in the use of electromagnetic and energy medicine for more than 22 years, and he's with us to talk about it on the program today. Dr. Pawluk, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
It is such an important issue, and let's start right away. I mentioned in the beginning of the program about painkillers, and are they actually killing you? Do painkillers really kill us? I mean, we take over-the-counter, we think they're safe to go ahead and take, and then when we need something a little stronger, we go to the doctor, we get a prescription, we take something that's a little more powerful, and we think it's going to work for us. In the long run, can these actually be harmful to us?
Totally. And it's subtle. It often builds up very quietly, and then before you know it, you're in some deep trouble. 16,000 people a year. 16,000 people a year die from gastrointestinal bleeding due to non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, basically medications like aspirin and ibuprofen. 16,000 people a year die from gastrointestinal bleeding. There are even more people who die from those two agents, those particular class of agents, than that, because they also harm the kidneys. If you take more than 3,000 grams of one of these agents or a combination of these agents in a lifetime, you will have a 400% increased risk of basically wiping out your kidneys.
You know, that's amazing because we feel like, okay, we're going to look at the back and it gives us a warning and we sort of push the limit from time to time. But even if we use the proper dosage, we're still exposing ourselves, obviously, to some long-term problems.
Especially if it's chronic. If you if you fell down and bruised your shoulder or elbow or something like that and you just took ibuprofen for a few days, there's not as much risk as the people who are taking it chronically. And so that's a big part of my emphasis and why I'm trying to raise consciousness about this issue is because 100 million Americans have chronic pain. And if you have chronic pain, do you think you're doing something to manage your pain every day?
Well, and you see this literally, every day when people come to you as a family physician, they come in and they've got the pain and they want something to make it go away. So you actually deal with this on an ongoing basis. It's
probably 40 to 60% of the complaints that people bring to the doctor is related to pain.
You know, it's interesting. I mentioned you've been doing this for 22 years, the study of using magnets, electromagnetic energy medicine. And you said you really got started because you really didn't see a good solution for patients suffering from chronic pain. Has that changed any other than what you're doing in the past 22 years?
Well, for most doctors, it hasn't changed any. For me, it had changed dramatically because early on, 20 years ago, I decided I had to do something different. And I learned acupuncture to be able to give myself another tool other than continuing to give people the drugs that don't work anyway. So, in other words, we're killing people to manage their pain. I mean, that's insane, isn't it?
Yes.
So what I did is I studied acupuncture, and in my study of acupuncture, I began to realize that in the Orient, at least, they were using magnets for acupuncture points, and then I began to really dig into that sort of concept, the science, and the medical literature behind it, and discovered there's a huge literature in the Middle East, the East, the Far East, the Near East, in like the Eastern European countries, on the use of magnetics, basically, both static magnets, those little hard magnets that are on our fridges, but also pulse magnetic fields, which are specific devices. And they work much better. They're safe. They're totally non-toxic. They work very well. And there's a huge body of literature that supports that use. So that is a much more effective way to manage particularly chronic pain. Although I have to tell you, my wife broke her toe, and we have a device called the SomaPulse. It's on my website. Her toe was angled out. She buddy taped the toes, wore what we call a platform shoe. 3 days later, she was wearing a magnetic system 24 hours a day. 3 days later, she was walking in a regular shoe 3 miles.
That's just absolutely amazing. An amazing story. Our guest on the program is Dr. William Pawluk. It's P-A-W-L-U-K. His website is DrPawluk, PAWLUK.com. Of course, information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can log on to our website and get more information. As I mentioned, Dr. Pawluk is a board-certified family physician. You might have seen him on Dr. Oz. A couple of his columns appear on Dr. Oz's website in talking about this. We mentioned chronic pain. Let's talk a second about acute pain, talk about how if those are treated differently, and then let's talk about specifically the pulsed electromagnetic therapy that you're using.
With acute pain, static magnets and pulsed magnetic fields actually have a natural anti-pain killing effect, almost equal to 10 milligrams of morphine. So even for an acute problem, it significantly helps with the pain level. But it also helps with the underlying problem, which is the inflammation that's associated with the damage, and it helps the body to repair. Magnetic fields, I've seen dramatic cases of bruising literally go away overnight, associated with a wound, associated with getting banged on the thigh or something. You can see a big bruise the next morning. 24 hours, it's gone. So it helps in a lot of different ways to rebalance and heal the tissue itself, which is the cause of the pain, cause of the injury. And so it stimulates the entire healing cascade, and typically we say that people will heal at about half the time that they would normally heal with an acute injury. Chronic pain is another matter, and it's chronic because something got stuck in the healing process. The body couldn't finish the job of natural healing, and so as a result, the problem became chronic. Sometimes the problem has been building for decades, and then finally one day we wake up with pain, and now it just doesn't go away. So what we discussed on Dr. Oz is the idea that what you're not doing is just masking the problem by treating the pain. You're actually helping the tissue to heal itself, which then relieves the pain. And that's a more enduring benefit, plus it's much less toxic.
Why do you think some doctors are so hesitant to suggest alternative treatments, such as acupuncture and what we're talking about here with the magnetic therapy? You're, again, a family physician, a registered family physician. You see people on an ongoing basis, thousands like you across the country out there. Yet sometimes people say, I've asked about something that I saw on television, read about, and they're sticking with the same old way they did this when I went to them 5 years ago. Why are so many reluctant to make that change?
Yeah, that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, right?
Exactly, yes.
Expecting different results.
Yep.
Why do doctors not embrace these other approaches and technologies? There's three basic reasons. Number one is ignorance. And I'm not talking that people are ignorant. They just don't know. They haven't learned. They haven't gone out of their way to learn something new. The second is arrogance. Some doctors just don't want to learn something new. Say, I know what I know. I have my credentials. I'm the authority. I don't want to. Don't teach me anything new. The third is finance. I call them the three answers. Finance. In other words, there's money involved, and they can make more money doing what they do than they can by doing this.
Dr. William Pawluk, our guest on the program, Pawluk. That's important because you can find all this information, a wealth of free information available at the website, Dr. Pawluk. It's DrWilliamPawluk.com. All the information there. I was fascinated when I was looking at the website that magnetic fields not just used for pain, but they have a lot of applications, basically in overall health, if you're involved in any type of athletic endeavor, even improving your sleep.
Absolutely, because they work at a very fundamental level in the body. This is not like one drug for one condition, the way we are normally raised and think in this society, because that's the way approvals are given by the FDA. This is a basic physiologic therapeutic process. So it reduces swelling in the tissues. It improves circulation. It helps to stimulate repair and regeneration of tissues. Just these kinds of those three or four basic things are enough to create healing of almost any kind of condition, to a point.
When someone comes to you with chronic pain, basic pain, and they've tried everything else, how difficult is it to get them to keep an open mind and to try something different?
It's a matter of education, and that's one of the reasons we set up DrPawluk.com, is to be able to provide people the education about what pulsed electromagnetic fields do and how they work. Because if you understand it, because your doctor's not going to teach you about that. They're not going to tell you about it because they don't know anyway. So you need to be educated. Once you're educated and informed that you've got a safe technology that works, and you can use it at home, one of the key aspects of pulsed electromagnetic therapy, and this has been my emphasis as a family physician most of my career, is to get you to go home and treat yourself. I don't want you coming to the office. A lot of doctors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, chiropractors, physical therapists, they want you coming to the office. That's how they make their money. But I'm of the opinion that if you've got a chronic problem, I'm doing you a disservice by having you come to my office. You really need to take something home with you.
Well, and I know you preach self-sufficiency. Give us enough knowledge that we can take care of ourselves. Come see you from time to time because you're a nice guy, but we don't have to come see you every time there's a problem that develops.
Exactly. You really need to educate yourself, inform yourself, and develop the technology or have available to you the technology that through which or by which you can do that. It does mean a bit of an investment. You know, if it's covered by Medicaid or if it's covered by Medicare or if it's covered by an insurance company, you can be darn sure that they've discounted it tremendously and often at a price that they want to control, which means that you're not always getting the best. This way, you actually can control the device that you can get. On the website, we have, under products, you have a range of different products for different costs and prices, and you purchase them. And when you're thinking in terms of chronic pain again, you're talking about pennies per day. Pennies, with no risk.
Dr. William Pawluk, our guest on the program, website DrPawluk.com. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and get more information on Dr. Pawluk. We're talking about the use of electromagnetic and energy medicine. He's a board-certified family physician, been studying this for more than 22 years, one of the leading, if not the leading expert in the country on that. People probably listening going, this is different. How safe is that? Are there any adverse reactions that I might have?
The only adverse reactions that happen are basically where you're causing the body to have to react to be able to heal itself. In other words, you're trying to create a change in the body, and sometimes the body will give you a little kickback. But I describe that as climbing the hill to get to the other side. Now, that doesn't happen very often. It happens maybe in 2 to 5% of the situations. For most people, there's virtually no risk whatsoever. It's like the wind blowing in the trees. You can't see the wind. You know it's there because it's shaking the leaves, and the wind doesn't stay in the trees. Magnetic fields are just like that. They don't stay in the body. They create a stimulus to the body. The body takes that stimulus if it needs it or wants it, and then it increases its own energy so that it can do its own work.
In looking at the website, DrPawluk.com, it appears that each individual who comes to you, each patient you see, you sort of customize the treatment for them. It's sort of like you're matching the device with the problem with the patient, so it's not like one size fits all.
That's my philosophy, again, as a physician, is that when you come to me, I'm going to give you a number of different alternatives. Then it becomes your choice which alternatives you will accept and use. And so we have that perspective, we have that value. That's our policy on DrPawluk.com, is to try to match the best system for you, or at least give you options, because it's very confusing out there. If you go on the internet yourself, there's a lot of misinformation. Everybody who's got a device is basically making their own claims for it, saying that they're the best of all. And I've evaluated every one of those devices. I have a house full of these machines. So I use them myself on myself, my family, friends, and and then ultimately on patients.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the key things to doing it, because everybody jumps on and there's a lot of companies set up, a multi-level marketing and all this other. You say research is a key. What are a couple of things that we should look for when we're looking into this, and things that we should totally avoid?
Well, on the website, we have right prominent on the home page is the PEMF Buyer's Guide. And that's where I'd really send people, because it can get complicated in the way you should think about these, because these are complicated devices. Complicated in terms of the different aspects that you have for the devices. We're talking about something like waveforms, or the frequency, or the intensity of the system, the basic configuration of the system. So the Buyer's Guide helps you to be able to, if you decide to go out and do your own research on the internet, the Buyer's Guide is very neutral, and it helps you to be able to figure out what kinds of questions you should be asking.
And again, it's put together by someone who's a board-certified family physician, has been dealing with this, studying this for 22 years, recommending it to his patients. Got a couple minutes left in the program. Again, the website is DrPawluk.com, DrPawluk.com. More information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Let's talk about effectiveness. How is this working for the patients? Talk about their satisfaction level.
It's very high. We have a very, very small return rate. Normally for these kinds of, many things on the internet, the return rates can be upwards of 20 to 30%. We have maybe a 2 to 5% return rate.
Which is amazing. And you've studied this extensively, and I understand one of the devices that you recommend was actually designed specifically to be used by NASA. Yes,
that particular device was designed to stimulate stem cells. So it's actually been found to help regeneration with tissue. We just, in fact, completed a study using that particular device on acute inflammation, and we found a dramatic improvement in acute inflammation. We're going to continue to do research with it, but we actually found that it's very effective to reduce inflammation.
If someone is listening and they're going, I've been taking over-the-counter pain medication for a while, I've been taking medication from the doctor for a while, at what point should they say, I really need to look into something else because I could end up being one of the statistics we talked about in the beginning of the program?
Well, if you have arthritis anywhere in your body, it's not typically going to go away. You might feel better, but if you do an X-ray or an MRI, you'll see that it's still there, even though you're feeling better. So any time that your problem becomes basically chronic, you need to think about using a pulse electromagnetic field system. You may not want to buy one for something that you just fell down and bumped your elbow, right, and it's going to recover in 3 or 4 weeks. You don't need it for that. If you happen to have it, you could use it for that, but you don't need to go out and buy one for that. So really, any time the pain problem becomes chronic and you're likely to never have it completely reversed and healed and, quotes, cured, then you should consider a PEMF system.
So when we hear the word chronic, we should start looking for an alternative therapy because taking the medication could lead to some very serious ramifications on down the line.
That's correct.
Dr. William Pawluk has been our guest on the program. Pawluk is Pawluk. The website is drpawluk.com, Pawluk.com. About 30 seconds left in the program. If somebody's listening and you're located in Maryland and they're listening in another part of the country and they would like to take this information to their doctor, do you bring it up with your regular family physician, or do you go somewhere and try to find a doctor who's familiar with what you're talking about?
Well, yes, it's very hard to actually find a doctor to be able to guide you in that way, and Dr. Oz made that point on his show, too. He allows people to download a document they can take to their doctor, but the problem is most doctors don't know who to recommend it to, and that's, again, why we set up our website, so people have an authoritative place to go.
So whether you live in the Maryland area or not, you can get the information you need. As I mentioned, a lot of great resource material on there. Dr. William Pawluk, our guest on the program, the website, DrPawluk, Pawluk.com. And, of course, you can always go to thisweekinamerica.us and log on there and link on to Dr. Pawluk's website. Doctor, we'll check back with you from time to time. It's great to have you on the program. Very important information. Thank you for sharing that with us on the show today.
You're very welcome, Rick. Thank you very much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're listening to This Week in America and the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.